Alright, Dogg from Air Fans. I wanted to call this video a homily, but I didn't have the guts. Regardless, I'm happy to be getting back into some theological issues. Of course, we're still talking about COVID-19, but we're talking about it from a theological lens, which is fun and important. So, coming from, I think, a sermon my pastor gave a few months ago, a definition of gossip that I'd never thought about, which is that gossip, so gossip is talking about other people's sins, okay, and we do it because it makes us feel better about our own sins, and it's also just entertaining, but it's never a good thing to do, and this is why, we used to have, some people maybe still will have cautions against gossip, but just think about how much of our entertainment is just gossip, okay? The plots in movies and TV shows is just really showing people at their worst, and in terrible situations. The best example, which I didn't get until recently when we've been watching a lot of like classic horror movies and sort of taking notes and analyzing them, is horror movies. Because not only are the horror movies just scary, there's something like evil that is like thrilling to watch, to experience. But in a horror movie, basically the formula is that the characters leading up to that big payoff engage in every possible transgression or sin that the director can fit in. Okay, so in the most benign setting, you're going to have the parents are gone, so the kids throw a party, right? The kids throw a party, and there's beer and drugs and beer and alcohol and drugs there, and then probably two of the characters sneak upstairs to the parents' bed and have sex. And even better if one of those characters is actually in a relationship with someone else who's at the party, and it can cause all this drama, blah, blah, blah. But they just, the characters in a horror movie typically go down this dark path of just getting worse and worse and worse until the monster shows up, right? And here, so just what I'm saying, this is why we're so susceptible to the COVID-19 psyop, to this monster, okay? This fake monster that we've all been programmed to expect, because we're basically all living in this horror movie plot where we're all transgressing along with each other, and we're kind of like just pointing out other people's transgressions. Look at that guy, boy, he's already passed out, and it's only 7:30, but we're not looking at our own transgressions, and we're not saying, should we be at this party? So, look, the only allowable response to COVID-19 is the collectivist response. All right, we all have to wear a mask. My mask protects you. Your mask protects me. And if you don't get the vax, you're killing grandma, right? Sure. Oh well, you don't have to get the vax because you're under 65 and you take care of yourself. But what about all these people who don't take care of themselves? What about the boomers? And is it just me, or whenever we see people at risk, when we see the term people at risk for COVID, should we just be thinking boomers? Boomers, boomers, boomers. It's all for the boomers, guys. That's just a silly little thing too. But listen, this is why it's become a collectivist thing, because collectivists believe that individuality is the sin. Okay, that is That is their worldview, okay? That's basically why they're collectivists. That's why they believe in collectivist ideology, because if you're alone and you're making decisions on your own, you will inevitably make bad decisions. This is also known as authoritarianism, even though we tend not to recognize it as such because collectivists tend to be on the left, and we tend to assume that authoritarianism is a right-wing ideology or a personality trait, but it's actually not. That comes from a guy named Theodore Adorno, but I digress. Point is, leftists can be authoritarian just as right-wingers can be. Don't do your own research. That leads to individual thought, and individual thought leads to bad decisions. Basically, you're going to idle your car while you're waiting for your kids. You're going to eat meat, right? You're going to have children. Oh, you're going to live off grid. You're going to be a prepper. You're not going to wear a mask. Oh, did I say that? Don't even go there. So, but, as we see this response with a lot of people, I think, in this whole COVID thing, I think these collectivists are looking at this whole thing, and yes, they're terrified, but they're saying, finally, this is our chance. This is our chance, and this is proof we were right all along. It's those mean old individualists going their own way or trying to that are the problem, and science is telling us, believe the science. Trust the science. TV's telling us we were right all along. It's those darn anti-vaxxers. We'd have this thing licked. We'd be going to, whatever festival that got canceled next. We'd be going to that festival if it weren't for these darn anti-vaxxers and they're doing their own research. Grrr. Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to call this a homily, because I kind of just did what I did there. But I just, listen, again, this is, it's just our love of sin. We have come to love sin to such an extent, that we expect it, and I really have disliked seeing a lot of churches talk about how this is, COVID is just, well, there it is. That's because we're sinful. We get the COVID, and they just don't look. They don't look at whether or not we actually have the COVID, okay, and what actually is the COVID, okay? Are you gonna die? For Pete's sake, because you're not, and there's plenty of other lessons to be gotten from that, but they're the hard lessons, right? Like maybe we don't need to wear masks even though we're told. Maybe we need to stand up, especially as churches, because what comes after masks is going to be far, far worse. But that's about it for me today. So I hope you like that one. Leave some comments down below and take me to task if I've said something that doesn't jive with your reading of scripture here. Of course, I didn't really quote any scripture. I'm just mainly working from my observations. But would love to hear what you have to say about that, and tell your friends. Subscribe to the channel, please, and if you can support my work in any way, I would love it. Thank you very much. This has been Evan Benton of Dogg for Mayor. Thank you, and good night.